What is that, Waffle Gang? My name is Mark, and welcome to some more r/am I the Butthole. If you want to know what all this whole Waffle Gang thing is all about, wait till the end of the video and I will explain it there. I'll also timestamp it for you too. But if you want to skip the initial waffle, timestamps are in the description and along the timeline below. But if you are new here, please consider hitting that like, that subscribe, and maybe that notification bell too. And yesterday we had two new people over on YouTube membership. We had Lacey's Journey and Jacqueline. Thank you so much for your support. It really does help me out right now. It's absolutely amazing of you. And for everyone for being here and taking the times out of your day. I know I say it every single day, but I appreciate you so much. You won't believe how much I appreciate you. And with that being said, let's get in to today's stories. Much love, guys. And our first story comes from That One Guy. Am I the arsehole for kicking out my sister, brother-in-law and their kids after months of living in chaos? During the middle of the pandemic, my brother-in-law got laid off, and because they could no longer afford rent, my sister, her husband and their 3 kids, aged 5 to a newborn, moved in with me. I, 22 male, live in a small flat. But since I work nights and sleep most of the day, it's sort of like they live in the flat and I'm just some random guy. I understand that kids are very hard to take care of, but I expected my sister to at least try and keep the flat clean. That would be a hard no, since every time I would come home, there's dirty dishes all over the place and toys on the floor, and it just smells awful. I don't know what it is, and neither does my sister evidently, but it's terrible. The eldest coloured all over the wall and spilt juice all over my rug. She's also broke several fragile glass figurines that I inherited from my mother, who has passed away. My sister, we don't share the same mother, disregarded all of these things, and when I got upset, just told me to get over it because her kids didn't mean it. I had to get rid of a chair because of the second eldest vomited all over it and nothing could save it. The youngest cried a lot, and it understandably irritated my neighbours, who never said anything to the landlady but did come over multiple times to complain. I've sat my sister down and explained my frustrations to her multiple times, but she just doesn't care. I've tried to explain everything to my brother-in-law, but he's rarely home, despite not having a job yet, even though it's been months. The kids were up at the same time that I was asleep, and they constantly ran in and out of my room, screaming their little heads off. I love them really, but I couldn't deal with that, especially since you have to be alert and present in my line of work. Security guard. The final straw for me was that somebody, more likely the eldest child, let loose my leopard geckos. It took hours, and although I finally managed to find them all, it was the straw that broke the camel's back. And I told my sister that she had to leave and that I couldn't take it anymore. It's been a week since then. I've gotten no word from my sister, but the rest of our family has been calling non-stop, demanding to know how I could just kick my niece and nephews onto the street. Am I the arsehole? From this story, it literally just sounds like they've taken over your whole flat, and like you said at the start, you're just some random guy in there, and that just takes the piss. If I was in that scenario and someone offered me a place to stay when I was in need, I'd be so thankful. I'd be cleaning, I'd be sorting things out, I'd be trying to make their life as easy as possible while they're helping me. Yes, having kids is understandably hard. You would still respect someone else's property. And, you know, OP did give them plenty of warnings. There was plenty of warnings for them to sort things out, but they didn't. And especially when they're irritating the neighbours too. So I can't blame OP for this situation. And the fact that his family's on his back complaining about it too is just absolute madness. You know, it's one of those situations where if you've got a problem with it, you take them in. Don't just sit there and complain at me and then do nothing, right? So I can't say you're the arsehole in this situation, but let's have a look at the comments below to see what they say. Rolling Katamari says, not the arsehole. If your family's so worried, they can take them in themselves. A small flat is no place for a family of 5. If this crit says, this is a nightmare scenario. No, of course you're not the arsehole, and I hope you know that. I'll never understand a family who caught to shame others for taking someone in. If you feel so strongly about it, take them in yourself. Oh wait. And Little Gremlin says and quotes, the final straw for me was that somebody, more likely the eldest child, let loose my leopard geckos. Not the arsehole and get them out. My brother let my gecko loose once. He was never allowed to interact with Devi again. Devi, what a great name. Lolivia says, not the arsehole, not the arsehole, not the arsehole. What kind of sister/person does that? I cannot wrap my head around the sense of entitlement your sister and her family have. They did not respect you, your home and your belongings while you were helping them. Honestly, I would have thrown them out earlier. For the ones calling you, saying that you can take them in, let's see how they are managing it. Now, what would you do if you was put in this scenario? If you was kind enough to take these people into your home, into your small flat, and then they disrespected you, how would you deal with it? Would you give them warnings and kick them out? Would you kick them out immediately? Or would you just suck it up? Let me know in the comments below how you feel, and don't forget to vote on that poll in the description for story 1. And our next story comes from SH Am I the Arsehole? Am I the arsehole for correcting the CEO after he mispronounced my ethnic name and embarrassing my boss? I, 22 female, recently started working at a large company, and a few days ago the CEO briefly joined our Zoom call for the first time. We were thoroughly warned about this special occasion, and my boss repeatedly told us what an honour it is to have a CEO decided to pay our team a visit. He gave us plenty of instructions on how to behave in preparation for this. So the CEO made a few generic welcome on board comments to us recent grads, and I thought that would be the end of it. But then he greeted me and asked me how I'm settling in. Well, he absolutely butchered my name. For the record, I'm mixed race, white/Kenyan. I have a Swahili name that people generally struggle to pronounce. So before I answered his question, I corrected him and he mispronounced it again. He asked me if he got it right and I said no, so I slowed down my speech and told him exactly how to pronounce it, and he just kept messing up. So I decided to use the whiteboard feature on Zoom and typed out how to pronounce my name, syllable by syllable, e.g. Alexia, Alexia. He finally got it right and I jokingly said, "You get an A for that." Then I noticed my boss looked very pissed. He apologised and said I'm new and still adjusting to the environment. Afterwards my boss spoke to me in private and I got chewed out. He said that my behaviour wasn't professional and that I basically embarrassed him in front of the CEO. He said that I should have let the mistake slide instead of turning the situation into a spectacle. On top of that, he was angry that I jokingly told the CEO he got an A, as that was disrespectful and deeply inappropriate. I thought I was in serious trouble, but during lunch I received an email from the CEO himself. He was super friendly and asked me to send him monthly email updates on how I'm getting on. He also encouraged me to reach out to him if I have any questions or concerns. I was kind of surprised, so now I'm wondering, am I a petty arsehole for wasting everyone's time, as my boss put, and correcting the CEO? You know, after initially reading that, I would come in with a not the arsehole verdict, simply because, you know, the CEO actually sounds quite decent, and the way your boss was talking about it, like, you're having to have like a special occasion, and what an honour it is. I mean, oh my god, it makes me feel sick when people talk like that about their bosses. I just find that this is another human. Yes, they're above you and they have to be treated with some respect, but this is just another human. Just treat them the same way, in my opinion. And so, most of the time, I find you get a lot of respect for that. I remember one of the bosses in one of my first jobs, it was like a warehouse environment for a greetings card company that they made greeting cards on these massive printers and stuff. And the boss was like, he came across quite snobbish. It looked like he looked down on his staff. At the time, I just come out of school and I was sort of very low on confidence, you know, very anxious. But over time, I gained quite a lot of confidence. And the boss would come by and he would say things to me. I'd noticed when he was talking to others, they sort of salute and do what he sort of said, you know. They were scared of this guy. And by that point, it was a couple of years into working there and I got so confident and I was like, I don't really want to work in this place no more, so I'm just going to speak how I want to. I'm not going to bow down to anyone or anything like that. And the boss came up to me and he asked me to do something that was against sort of health and safety and all that kind of thing. Like, he wanted me to do something with a forklift, like fill up the battery cells. And I was like, nah, I'm not doing that. I'm not trained for it. I don't know how to do it, so I'm not doing it. And he said, you will do it or you will just leave. And I'm just saying this for context because I'm slightly bigger than, I was quite a bit bigger than this guy. And I turned around and I said, who the fuck you talking to? And I had a grin on my face at the time and I just couldn't help grinning because I sort of planned this in my head because I knew he was going to be coming that day to try and make me do something. I don't know why. And the guy just turned around to me and he said, no one's ever spoken to me like that. And he said, fair play to you. And he stuck his hand out and shook my hand. And it was from that moment I just sort of like, yeah, I talk to people how I wish. Obviously respectful. I'm not rude to people all the time, you know, but I won't take shit from people either. And I completely went off on some random story again. I am sorry, guys. But yeah, back onto the story. It depends on the whole vibe of the call, I guess. I mean, if it was a jokey call, the CEO was coming across jokey, then yeah, absolutely fine. You may get a slight arsehole just for the You get an A comment at the end, but, you know, as I said, we're all human here. Let's go to the comments and see what they say. And the answer is me says, not the arsehole for correcting the CEO on the pronunciation. Whether you're the arsehole for adding the last comment about receiving an A all depends on the vibe of the call. If your team was joking around with the CEO and it was casual, definitely not the arsehole. If it was a very formal meeting, then you could be the arsehole here, but just for the last comment. Pronouncing someone's name correctly is one of the most basic signs of respect. Every boss or company should show respect to their employees. Be careful with your new boss. CEO sounds great. Kalkiki says, not the arsehole, only because the CEO was cool about it. You might have been the wrong in the you get an A comment, and maybe you need to be careful with that, but it's always okay to correct someone when they mess up your name. Snoo Foxes says, not the arsehole, here's what I think happened. Boss tried to do damage control after the meeting with CEO. Boss disparaged you and said it would never happen again, that he had or was going to sternly reprimand you. CEO is obviously much less fragile than boss thinks, and CEO now wants to signal to you, and perhaps the boss, that you are not in trouble, that he will be watching your performance and how boss treats you to make sure there is no xenophobic reprisals. Yeah, I kind of got that feeling out of it too as well. The CEO does sound like an absolutely fantastic person to me. But yeah, that is just my opinion, and sorry for the long story in the middle there. Let me know what you guys think of this story in the comments below, and don't forget to vote on that poll in the description for story 2. And our next story is from Zonomoko. Am I the arsehole for selling my mother-in-law's engagement ring? Okay, so I don't think this is as bad as the title makes it sound. My mother-in-law got engaged 6 years ago. She came over, and my then 5-year-old was obsessed with a huge diamond ring. Mother-in-law is an idiot and took the ring off so my daughter could wear it. Well, I didn't know she gave it to her, and my daughter was fucking 5, so she has lost it. I was beside myself, but mother-in-law said it wasn't a big deal and should make him buy her a new one. I told her I would find it, and I literally tore the house apart, but I couldn't find it, and she didn't seem to care. She got an identical ring a few weeks later. They got married, and I forgot about it. Well, that was 6 years ago, and we're in the process of moving. We struggle financially and are going from house to an apartment. I found the ring, and I felt like she clearly doesn't need it, and has an identical ring, so I sold it. I'm using the money to begin going back to school. My husband for some reason thought it would be a good idea to mention that to his mum, and she was pissed. She said it was her ring and I had no right to sell it. I asked what she would have done with it. She paused for a moment and said she would have given it to her housekeeper. She then called her housekeeper into the room and told her she had a diamond ring for her, but we'd stolen it. Money is absolutely nothing to her, so I don't get this reaction. The other thing I can think of is that she hates to see me happy. She was very against the marriage, and I think she has enjoyed feeling right because we've had so many issues. She kept it up until her husband got home from work, and he said he would buy her a 3rd ring if she would just shut up. Now I'm confused because I really didn't think she would care. Wow, the attitude, the entitlement in this post, man. Now, I know the ring was lost in the house and it's been gone for 6 years, but it's still not your property. If someone just took something of mine that I'd forgotten about years ago and went and sold it, I'd be pissed off too. And you know, it doesn't matter that she's all sort of casual about getting a new ring. I mean, it kind of makes her an arsehole the way she is being about that, but that's not the title of this story. You selling that engagement ring to benefit yourself without even saying anything is absolutely ridiculous. It just simply wasn't yours to sell. So let's have a look at the comments below to see what they say. Queen Oreo says, you're the arsehole, you didn't own it, you had no right to sell it. Just because she has more doesn't mean you can take it for yourself. You stole from her. Savage Beast says, you're the arsehole, not yours to sell. Here for Am I the Arsehole says, you're the arsehole, she may have not been emotionally attached to the original ring, and she may be all blasé about getting a new one. But those things and your own financial problems do not make it okay to sell someone else's property so you can line your own pockets. Wisteria says, you're the arsehole, even if she didn't need the ring, even if it was 6 years later. You should have called to say you found it. Instead, you got stars in your eyes and thought about how finding this ring could benefit you. Your husband has a big mouth and your mother-in-law sounds like a bitch. You're all the arseholes in this story. The only decent one is your daughter. Shush Pup says, you're the arsehole. What is actually wrong with you? I'd sue you for more than you're worth. You sold something that didn't belong to you. Bacon, Egg and Cheese says, everyone sucks here. You stole a diamond ring for fuck's sake. How can you possibly justify that behaviour and think there is even a chance you're not an arsehole? Mother-in-law doesn't sound like a prize either, with what she pulled on the housekeeper. You suck way more though. Now, I turn this one to you guys. What would you do in that situation if you was the mother-in-law and you found out that someone sold this diamond ring, even though it's been 6 years ago? Would you be bothered by it? And you got a new one. Would you be that bothered? Let me know in the comments below, and don't forget to vote on that poll in the description for story 3. And our next story is from OT Fassian. Am I the arsehole for declining to help out my nosy HOA neighbour who likes to complain about me? First, I wouldn't even ask here if my neighbour hasn't gossiped to everyone in our building about this, but since I've gotten mixed feedback from other concerned neighbours, I'll just ask here. Am I in the wrong for saying no to my neighbour? My neighbour and I have never gotten along since I moved into the building. The building is a condo that is professionally managed by a property management company, much like an apartment, but it also has an HOA that basically hires the management company. I'm not really in tune with the structure, but suffice it to say the HOA makes up all the rules and the management company enforces them. My next door neighbour on my floor is a busybody who is both on the HOA board and involved in the Architecture and Improvements Committee. Part of the job of this committee is apparently to police decorating decisions of the residents to make sure what we do is in harmony with the safety and aesthetic standards of the community. She has already complained about the planters on my balcony because they aren't the right colour, and about my Tinder friends, too many visitors, to the board. I know because I have a friend who is on the board. I've long ago decided I want nothing to do with my nosy neighbour. Problem, I spent Friday night at my neighbour's and he asked me to drop off his ballot because I was going to jog on the next day and the drop box is a couple of miles from our building and is en route. I agree. In the morning on my way back to my unit to freshen up for the morning jog, my neighbour caught me in the hallway on our floor and she saw me holding a ballot envelope. She stopped me and asked me if I would be at a deer and drop off her ballot as well. I simply and politely said, sorry, I can't. I don't feel comfortable doing that. I had my reasons, but I didn't feel like going into them with her. First, she has complained about me on multiple occasions. There is no reason for me to go out my way to help her. Second, she has proven herself to be the complaining type. I don't want to risk her accusing me of fraud or somehow mishandling her ballot should anything go wrong. She was angry and gossiped about my unwillingness to help her out, even though I was dropping off my ballot. I didn't tell her I was actually dropping off my friend's ballot. This morning the HOA sent out an email reminding us all to be cordial and kind to neighbours despite these polarising times. Now I'm wondering if I should just have taken her ballot too and dropped it off for her. Now, I gotta come out and say, immediately not, just because, you know, there isn't a good relationship between you two, and like you said, she could accuse you of doing something with it. I would have done the same in that situation and come out and pretty much said, I think, look, we don't see eye to eye, I don't think it's a good idea. You don't have to give reasons for it either. You just don't have to do anyone a favour. Surely, and I'm not sure, you're probably going to correct me on this, HOAs don't have to give each other favours in HOAs either, do you? Although you're probably going to turn around and say, yes you do. And when we've read out previous HOA stories in the past, they always just blow my mind. I can't believe the rules that they can enforce. Like the stuff in this story about having planters being the right colour to work with everyone else. It's just so ridiculous. That you all must conform to our colour scheme. What the hell? Let's have a look at the comments below to see what they say. Pursuing Purgatory says, not the arsehole, only close family members are supposed to drop off ballots. Ignore the stupid emails and ignore your nosy neighbour. It's my birthday says, not the arsehole. I'm mad at reading that, mad at the nosy neighbour, the people who gossip with nosy neighbour, and mad at the HOA sending an email like that you weren't cordial. Cordial doesn't mean saying yes all the time, it can mean politely declining. Our crew is replaceable says, not the arsehole, at least in my state. It is illegal to drop off someone else's ballot, though it's impossible to enforce. For all she knows, you are dropping off your own and doing nothing wrong. She can fuck off. Bog says, not the arsehole. If things get ugly, you don't want her accusing you of tampering with her ballots. Now, how would you deal with this story? What would you do in this situation? How would you approach that nosy neighbour and talk about the situation? Let me know in the comments below, and don't forget to vote on that poll in the description for story 4. Now, some of you guys have been asking in the comments what this whole waffle gang thing is all about. Well, it all started as a joke a little while back. That at the start of the stories, I always say, if you want to skip this initial waffle where I talk about like subscribe and all that kind of stuff and the new members and saying thank you, and I say you can skip that by skipping the initial waffle. And as far as I know, that is a British thing to say. It might not be. You guys might use it in the US as well. The majority of this channel is US folks watching, I'm aware of. I know there's some UK folks too, so they will know what I'm talking about. But generally, when I say skip waffle, it means to like waffle on. You're talking too much. You're talking stuff people might not want to hear, right? So I always say skip the initial waffle. Over time, folks have been saying, like down in the comments below, I never skip waffle. I love waffles. I have syrup with my waffles and all this kind of good stuff. And it does make me chuckle. And the community themselves have created this sort of like this little gang, this little membership pack that we have called the Waffle Gang. So now, you know, if you're part of it, you're part of it. You're just part of this community. That's what we're calling the Waffle Gang now, making you a part of us. And I really love it. It makes us all inclusive. It gives us a little name for this wholesome community we have. So yeah, that is basically what it is. So don't be offended by me calling you the Waffle Gang or anything like that. Please, just embrace it. Take it in. And yeah, that is the end of today's video, and I hope you have enjoyed. And if you have, you know what to do. Could you please consider hitting that like, that subscribe, and maybe that notification bell too. And when you do click that notification bell, make sure to always click always on there, because otherwise YouTube won't notify you all the time. It's ridiculous, I know. But yes, thank you so much for being here today, and I will see you in the next one. Take care, guys. Much love.